First off the bat is that Dillon Gabriel is starting for the Browns this weekend in the UK against the Vikings. Interesting time. Interesting coordinator to make your first NFL head start against. Good luck.
Yep.
Especially with Harrison Smith back and all that. But Shadur Sanders remains the number 3 quarterback on the depth chart. So Joe Flacco is your backup. And I'm wondering why now, because, I kind of figured it would happen. And I love Mary Kay Cabot, who has covered the Browns for the Plain Dealer.
Who heavily hinted that it was going to happen last night.
Like 90 years. Yeah. And she had written something like, it's time to go to Dillon Gabriel. And just kind of a peek behind the curtain, when a beat writer of that stature writes something like that, it means that the team is probably going to make a move to Dillon Gabriel, right? It's not, she's just not out there, taking blind hacks at the golf ball. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay. Flacco, to me, and I went back and I watched the Lions game again. I feel like those picks were not necessarily his fault. Like, one was a clear miscommunication, and everybody only showed the fact that he was throwing it.
I mean, that was like, in the other one, Jerry Jeudy fell down, right?
Yeah, DJ Reed made like an incredible play on the ball.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I don't know that this is so much about. I don't know that this is so much about Joe Flacco as it is about maybe the front office wanting to get a better look at like what they have at quarterback going forward. And I think the challenge for the coaching staff now becomes, if Dillon Gabriel hasn't shown himself to be the best option in practice, do you risk losing the team by doing this? Because, and I've been over this before, and I think we've talked about this before, like, this is not playing Madden. There are other guys in that locker room whose careers are legitimately on the line this year. I mean, that's most of your roster every year. And so if you've given them a demonstrably worse answer at the most important position on the field, you could be affecting their ability to continue their career past this year. And so, like, that's what I mean when I say you have to be able to sell it to the locker room. Now, there comes a point in the year, right? I mean, when you're, 13, 14 games in and the team's out of the playoff race, everybody's an adult, you know what I mean? Like, you realize at that point, like, and I think any player would realize at that point, okay, like, I understand when the organization wants to get a look at these guys. I just know this, like, Joe Flacco was very clearly the best quarterback in camp for them, very clearly the best quarterback in camp for them. So if Dillon Gabriel goes out and it does not look good on Sunday, I just think you're inviting so many different things into the conversation. And that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like, you're inviting the Shadur Sanders circus into the equation.
Yes.
You're inviting the like into the internal conversation, like, why do we go away from Joe in the first place? What is this season all about?
Right.
It's just, I mean, to me at least, it's a risky move. And I think it's different than the Giants move to Jackson Dart, because I think the players saw in the summer, Jackson Dart's probably going to be the best answer sooner rather than later for us on the field,
Right.
And Jackson Dart won the backup job. Now, Dillon Gabriel did too, but Dillon Gabriel didn't have Jameis Winston to beat out. You know what I mean? And Jackson Dart did beat Jameis Winston out. So I look at this and I do think there's some risk involved. And that's, by the way, is with all due respect to the job the Browns have done, which this is clearly a reset year for them. And I do think if you look at like what they've done from a roster standpoint, a lot of this plan is working out. That rookie class, quarterbacks aside,
rookie class is great.
Looks awesome. Yeah. I mean, Mason Graham, Carson Swessinger, Dylan Sampson, Quinshon Judkins coming back now, and how good he's looked since he's gotten back in the lineup. I think they're doing a lot of things right. I would hope you wouldn't undermine the rest of your year if the players don't believe that you're doing the right thing for them in the here and the now. And again, like, doing the right thing for the franchise long-term, you have to get a read on what you have at quarterback going forward, and that's going to affect your 2026 plan. But there are a lot of guys in that locker room who could care less about your 2026 plan, because there's no guarantee they're going to be there when you're executing it.
So you're 1-3 and nearly beat the Bengals with Joe Burrow in week 1.
Mhm.
So this is a 1-3 team that should possibly be, I mean, should probably be a 2-3 team, right?
Yeah.
And you have Carson Wentz on Sunday in the UK, which is a total, you have no idea what's going to happen in that game. A game that you can win. You have the Steelers the week after, and yes, Pittsburgh is theoretically right now the best team in the division, but by virtue of the fact that the Ravens have an entire starting offense and defense on the IR at this point, or in the training room. And then you have the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets. Like, through November 9th, all of those games are winnable. And I just don't understand why now. And maybe the plan is, like you said, that there is a reset involved, that there's some version of this that involves taking your lumps this year. But the kids already showed that they could play. Give them the best quarterback option available and let them play, right? I mean, I don't know. Let them go beat the Vikings. Let them go beat the Steelers. I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility. They went down and they stopped the Lions on the first drive on Sunday on their
Yeah.
scripted drive, then had an 88-yard counter with a Quinshon Judkins touchdown. And yes, then a lot of stuff got out of control in that game. But this is after beating the Green Bay Packers. I think this team's frisky enough that you keep Flacco in and you let him bang around a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the good news is Joe is such a pro and has such a I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Maybe that's not the right way to put it. Like just kind of like like a mature attitude about all this stuff that like it's not one of those like where you, like, oh, we can't go back to him. You know what I mean? Like I think they can go
True.
back to him if they need to. So I think Joe is like the perfect guy for this scenario where if you do have to go back to him, you can. Um, but it's just like I don't think this team is dead. I think the team is like, I mean, just by record and by the juncture of the year we're at right now, like they're still in contention. This isn't like they've fallen out of the race completely. Um, again, like it's one of those things where it's like, how's the locker room going to take this? And if Dillon looks like he's in over his head against Brian Flores' defense, how hard is it to go back to him again? There's a lot to consider there. And I think a lot of it like can affect the development of that rookie class too. Like you want to have as healthy an environment as you can over the last 3 months of the season. And you want to give those guys a chance to play at their very best over the rest of the year. So now, okay, like all of a sudden, like you look like you've got like a really nice young group of players going into 2026 and they've got some momentum. And I don't know, like I think looking at this dispassionately and looking at this like it's like you're moving pieces around on a chessboard. I don't know. I think there's risk involved in that.
Let's play the Mike and the Mad Dog. And for those of you who don't know, they were legendary radio hosts in the Northeast, and they would get the Giants schedule and the Jets schedule on the day that it was released, and they would sit there and go, "That's a win, that's a
Win,
loss,
loss, win, loss.
win,
Yeah, yeah.
loss, win, loss." Okay, but just pacify me for one more second on this. Okay, let's say you lose to the Browns or you lose to the Vikings in the UK because the Vikings are a better team. Okay,
Yep.
that makes you 1-4, and you lose to the Steelers, and that makes you 1-5. You beat the Dolphins on October 19th. You beat the Patriots on October 26th. I don't think either of those, none of those games are out of the realm of possibility,
Okay,
and
so
they're
now you're
more
two
in
and
the
two through
realm
your
of
next four.
okay. And then you have the Jets, who may be one of the worst teams in the NFL right now,
So
as at least
now you'd be 4-5 if
now
you
you're
put all that
four and
together.
five going into a game against Baltimore. And who the hell knows what the Ravens look like in November? They could be a lot better, or
Yeah.
all these players could just be hurt. Like this could be this sucks. Everybody's on IR season, and that happens to teams, right?
Right.
So I don't know. That's my
I mean,
thought process there. I don't.
yeah, the other piece of my thought process is that the quarterback of the 2026 Browns is probably not on the roster right now. Right?
Think it's Sellers. What do you think?
I don't
It's
know who it is, but I don't think that player's on the roster right now. That'd be my guess.
I got an
Um,
interesting text on this the other day, by the way. And I'll just whatever. We can put a bow on the Browns quarterback conversation with this, that I think that a lot of people like Fernando Mendoza
Yep.
from Indiana. He's starting to climb up the boards,
The
and
proverbial board.
the proverbial board. And then this kid Josh Hoover, who lit up Belichick in week 1 from TCU. A lot of people are starting to talk about him,
I'll
generating
give you
some
one.
buzz.
I'll give you one. Dante Moore at Oregon.
Oh yeah, and I mean, huge game against Penn State. That was like his
Went
coming
into
out
Penn
party.
State, and
Yep.
like, if you watch that game, and I'm not a scout, but what I do know is this guy was like a high end recruit who went to UCLA and played for Chip Kelly and started as a true freshman, then transferred out. I think there was some sort of NIL issue, whatever it was. It was before Chip left, I think. And he went back and he sat for a year, which I think that shows some maturity. Like he was actually Dillon Gabriel's backup at Oregon last year. And just watching him, knowing like, okay, like this guy has got like high end tools. He was that sort of recruit that's showing up on the field now. And to perform in that environment, I still remember Dwayne Haskins, like his sort of coming out party was in a whiteout at Penn State. And I just think that those sorts of moments can get people paying attention. And so if Oregon winds up winning the national championship or making a run at it, Dante Moore is draft eligible. And if he's got these high end tools, maybe he's somebody you look at as like, that's a real guy. So, I think there's lots of names. The weird thing about this year is there's lots of those names in the bucket, but I don't think any of them you could say, like, I don't know there's a single quarterback out there where I would put $100 on. He's 100% going to be a top 10 pick,
No, not
whether
right
it's
now.
Nussmeier or Sellers or whoever else. Like, I think these guys are all in this big Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller. Like, I think all these guys are sort of in this big bucket. And I don't think any of them are like, Caleb Williams or Drake May were 2 years ago at this time when we knew like those guys were going to be top 10 picks,
No, I don't think it's going to offer the high end of that year's quarterback class, the 2024 quarterback class, but I think it is going to offer like it's going to be that pick your flavor, Penix, McCarthy, Bo Nix. Like I think it
Yeah.
could be that version of it, right? Where it's like if you need one, there might be a guy there that matches with you. And I'll this is just a random aside, but going back up and getting Dart looks really smart right now. At least it does after one
Yeah.
start.
I actually
Okay.
just answered. It was actually funny because I answered a mailbag question on that and somebody asked, would if you redrafted right now, would Dart go higher? And somebody brought up Cleveland, and I said Cleveland probably still would go through the plan that they went through last year, which was to reset the roster because they went 3 years without a first round pick, and their core was getting a little older, which I think was smart by the Browns, right? But then I thought about it, I'm like, but maybe they would have taken him at 5, And I say that because if you had the knowledge of what 2026 looks like now, maybe you do take him. You know what I mean? Or the Saints
Yeah.
take him at 9, because I think that's a huge part of it for these teams. It's something like most people don't look at. Like a lot of teams, when they need a quarterback, will go in and they won't just look at that year's quarterbacks. They'll look at the next year's quarterbacks, And so, having that like kind of like 2-year picture now, the Jackson Dart pick could wind up looking really smart.
Good. I mean, we're just in the early stages of that, but we'll see where that goes.